everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Wisconsin Weather Experts on this Thursday. We have a lot to talk about on the show today, and more, or I should say most of our content is storm damage from yesterday, especially down south. It was a really devastating day across the Mississippi Valley.
I know. You just saw all the tornado warnings yesterday. It was insane, even in our area, especially in the morning time. It all started in the morning, and then all the way through the afternoon. I mean, they're still not getting a break because of the rain today.
Right. So there's still plenty to talk about, especially south of us. But even here locally yesterday, the main deal here was very heavy rainfall, as Holly mentioned in the morning. Most spots picked up over an inch of rain and very beneficial. We also saw some small hail with some of the loud thunder that we saw at times, and got a little active yesterday evening too, as that warm front, those sneaky little warm fronts, provided a few strong cells, mainly off towards the west of us. So we'll get to that a little bit later on, but first we want to talk about the thunder that we saw yesterday, and for that we're going over to meteorologist Tom Walks. Live look outside where it's much quieter right now, but Tom is going to explain everything we saw yesterday that once again started in the morning.
Yeah, hey Steph and Holly, good afternoon. Yeah, it has been an interesting go of this storm system here. As we talked yesterday, we had the heavy rain yesterday morning, we had the lightning and the thunder, and then last night we ended up having a severe thunderstorm warning in Dodge County, and we almost had a few tornado warnings in our area. Those stayed just off to the west. But I want to focus on yesterday morning. Now, you may have noticed the thunder sounded a little louder, and it was that rolling kind of thunder that just kind of really kept rolling and rolling. And here's why this happened. Now, typically, if you were to go into a hot air balloon and go up, it would be warmer towards the surface, and then it gets colder as you go up, right? Same thing like if you go to the top of a mountain, right? It's going to get colder. Those are the normal conditions. But yesterday, we had a warmer layer of air at about 6,000 feet or so. In fact, it was about 15 degrees warmer, 6,000 feet over our heads than it was at the surface. Now that does a couple of things. Number one, it can cause thunderstorms to stay alive longer because those thunderstorms feed off of the warmer air. But what it can also do when we get those thunderstorms, it traps the sound waves beneath that temperature inversion in the colder air. Isn't that interesting? So that does two things for us. Number one, it causes the thunder to be louder because the sound waves are trapped closer to the surface. And number two, it can cause that long rolling effect of the thunder because, again, those sound waves are trapped beneath the warmer air aloft. So the science, very interesting. Not all thunderstorms, of course, are created equal, and in meteorology, we look at what we call the atmospheric profile. So we're not just looking at the surface, but we're looking up as well. And boy, that was interesting yesterday. So thankfully, a much quieter day around here today. Steph, Holly, back over to you.
Yes, thank you, Tom. It was really just a fascinating situation. And, this happens every once in a while across the area where we talk about all of that loud thunder thanks to that inversion. So a great science lesson. Thank you, Tom. No thunder for today, but my goodness, did spots see it yesterday. In fact, we saw a ton of storm reports, not just here locally, but again, all across the area. I'd say the most notable here locally, though, was yesterday evening. You can see just one lone tornado report, and that was more so a funnel cloud. There was no tornado that actually touched the ground, no damage that we have heard of, or the National Weather Service will not be out surveying or anything like that. But a funnel cloud did prompt, near Evansville, I should say, prompt a tornado warning to be issued. So Tom was here, Lisa was here, just watching this rotation very closely because it was moving in the direction of Jefferson County, but thankfully weakened enough for it to not be a problem. But I do have a picture that I'm going to show you a little bit later on of that funnel cloud in Evansville. And just look at the broader view here, Holly. This was once again one of those systems that brought heavy snowfall to the north, and then unfortunately fatalities from severe weather down south in a handful of communities.
I know. It's so devastating, especially around this time of year with all the storms that we get. And you see, it's so many different reports. You have some where it's like trees are down. You see some where it's maybe a tornado warning or a tornado was recorded. And then you also see the snow. So it's a lot of stuff. And the power outages, I can imagine how many power outages there were yesterday. I am surprised that we didn't really get a lot here because we were hearing the thunder. We had the hail. We had pretty much everything, even some strong winds yesterday that really kind of stayed with our area today.
Absolutely. The wind was a big story yesterday, in addition to some of the heavy rainfall, I should say. Blustery for now, but thankfully later today, that wind is going to get a bit better. Let's take a look at that funnel cloud. This was actually from Albany, Wisconsin, so still somewhat, in the vicinity, but we did have 2 separate tornado warnings that were issued on one cell, and this is what it looked like for Jordan, who was just east of Albany. And a lot of other, videos of the clouds and the setup were sent into our National Weather Service chat yesterday. So it was really, really helpful to have people actually out on the storm watching it, because those storm spotters, that's so huge for us, especially in that area. We need a storm spotter to actually report funnel clouds and if it's touching the ground, and that's what prompts the National Weather Service to issue warnings.
Yeah, I know. Looking at that picture, it's like I can geek out over it, because it's like we're seeing this from, not just in a textbook or like online. We're actually looking at this picture in person, or someone was able to see this in person, and it was so close to our area. Those clouds were very, very low yesterday. And the thing about this one, it wasn't a lot of rain at that time either. It was kind of just in one little area, and everyone else around it was really dry. So I think that also helped with them getting a really good picture of this yesterday.
It was more of that discrete cell that popped. And it is worth mentioning too, I know we already said the warm front was right in that area, so that cell started very weak, but once it got into some of that warmer air, was able to spin up a little something. Though thankfully, again, no reports of that tornado actually touching the ground, just a funnel cloud, which is the best case scenario. But we've been talking already about how much happened south of us. So many tornado reports. In fact, I believe over 25 tornado reports, almost 300 tornado warnings were issued. Let's take a look at some of the unfortunate devastation that happened down south of us.
Intense and deadly weather slamming wide pockets of the South and Midwest overnight, as tornadoes and storm systems caused widespread damage and sent people running for cover.
I just knew that it was going to get bad, so I took me and my family to the nearest shelter.
Dozens of tornado and severe thunderstorm warnings were issued for portions of Kansas, Illinois, Indiana, Missouri, and Mississippi on Wednesday. This footage capturing a large funnel as it traveled through Lake City, Arkansas, sending sparks flying from possible electrical explosions. Another twister also reported near Harrisburg.
I'm scared, and I'm praying that everybody's going to be safe. And every town that it's hit, I pray that no one is hurt and there's not a lot of damage.
The gusts knocked trees and power lines to the ground, threw vehicles around like toys, and destroyed several structures.
I mean, I'm really devastated that we don't have anything left. I mean, we're picking up what pieces are left, and that's not a whole lot.
But all was not lost, with this family working with emergency crews to pull their dog from the rubble.
I got Rossi.
I got Rossi.
As cleanup commences, many impacted communities in the South and Midwest are bracing for days of intense rain. The National Weather Service warns of life-threatening flash flooding in the region through Saturday. Gary Baumgarten, Fox News.
Again, active all around.
I know, it's been active. We even have more videos to show. We have one, in fact, here. It's from Lake City, Arkansas. This is a massive wedge tornado. Just look at that. You see the lightning, you see the rotation. Boy, oh my, that is a massive storm. It's taking the words out of my mouth, because I was not expecting it to look this massive and insane. Oh my gosh, that's a very dangerous storm. And I think they're surveying that one today, so they'll definitely be able to have more updates for you guys on all of the damage that was done from this particular tornado.
And I do think a Fox Weather storm chaser was actually on this storm as well. So, and this unfortunately was one of the tornadoes that there were injuries from. So like you mentioned, Holly, with the National Weather Service out surveying today, I'm sure we'll get plenty more information, but you can just tell that that's a very strong tornado. A little closer to home because of the strong wind from some of yesterday morning's storms that rolled through the Chicago area. 5 overturned semis shut a stretch of I-65 down in northwest Indiana. And again, that was thanks to strong winds. Wind gusts were over 50 miles per hour as some of those storms rolled through. Just incredible footage as well. Thankfully, no injuries were reported. The interstate was reopened in a decent amount of time. But just from the strong wind, that wasn't a severe thunderstorm at all.
That was just wind. Oh, my. Ugh.
And moving on to Kentucky.
I know. This is Paducah, Kentucky, and this is from Robert Ray of Fox Weather. The damage here, like you can tell that it was wind, it was a tornado, it was insane. All the debris that's just sitting there. And it's so devastating to look at some of these pictures because a lot of this is properties and homes that people have, lived in probably for their entire life. This was a pretty bad storm as well.
Yeah, and I actually tried to do a little bit of digging, not necessarily in this area, but there were over 30 tornado reports from yesterday, and some of them were notable ones. Lake City, Arkansas, we showed video from that. Sladen, Mississippi, LaGrange, Tennessee, Gage, Kentucky, and Advance, Missouri. Those were all the ones that, at least that I have seen so far, that there have been injuries from. So I think a lot of the video that you're probably seeing on social media, more than likely from at least one of those. So again, it was more than one huge tornado in that area.
Wow. And this was a massive storm, and we got a little taste of some of that up here. And then down south, where some of their conditions are a lot more favorable with the heat, yesterday was just not a very good weather day, just all around.
Right. And one last stop, we'll go down to Chicago. Much like the Northwest Indiana trucks being overturned on the interstate, there were, not surprisingly, delays at O'Hare Airport because of some of those thunderstorms that rolled through too. In fact, they started yesterday morning, and still some delays lasted into yesterday evening. So if you were traveling down south, and not just in Chicago, really all across these areas that have dealt with the severe weather, you probably felt firsthand how hard it was to actually get out to your destination on time. Let's take a look at regional weather right now because we've recapped yesterday, but unfortunately, as I'll show you a little bit later on, days worth of rain and severe weather still in the forecast down south. Now, starting off closer to home, we saw a lot of rainfall yesterday. In fact, a lot of spots were well over an inch. In fact, some of the higher totals I've seen up to about 1.5 inches. So I think easily across the area, about 3/4 of an inch to about 1.5 inches of rain, and very beneficial. Look at down south, though. This is radar estimated precipitation through this hour, where you're seeing some of these reds and pinks. I mean, that's easily 5-6 inches of rainfall, and just radar estimates, nothing actually confirmed, but these are the areas, unfortunately, that will continue to see heavy rain today and all the way through Sunday. We mentioned this a little bit yesterday, but there are flood headlines from Texas all the way up to Ohio, and some of these actually ongoing flash flood warnings for active flooding situations, but over a foot of rain expected in a handful of these communities, with the fact that they're going to see system after system all the way through Sunday. This is just a terrible pattern for areas towards the south. Now, no severe weather at the moment aside from flash flood warnings, still of course take seriously, but right now it really is just some of that heavy rainfall. Watching some of what's heading into southwestern Missouri right now, but everything else is just ongoing heavy rain. You can see near Nashville, along the Mississippi River, as well out west a little bit more, still ongoing flash flood warning. So the flooding potential really is huge in areas towards the south. I can't stress that enough. Severe outlook as we look down south, it continues today. Maybe not as high of a risk as yesterday, but there is still a level 3 enhanced. And keep in mind, these are the spots that saw devastating tornadoes last night. So it continues. This is the bizarre part. Look at Friday, same spots under that severe weather threat. Saturday, it pushes maybe a little bit off towards the east, but not by much, all the way through Sunday. Severe weather and heavy rainfall in the forecast for these areas. Now let's bring you back closer to home. We do have the chance for a little bit more light rain, light being the key word there, by Friday. But for now, most of that rain is going to stay south of us. We'll just get a little bit of cloud cover across the state throughout the day today. Now notice later Friday evening, dry start to the day, but Friday evening we'll see a system number 1 approaching from the west as well as towards the south. So southern Wisconsin going to see some light rain Friday evening into early Saturday morning. Notice this system out west, how it really begins to weaken as it pushes into northwestern Wisconsin. There's the chance northern parts of the state could see some wintry mix late Friday night and early Saturday. Otherwise, that system very quickly falls apart. So it's just going to keep some cloud cover in throughout the rest of the day Saturday, and still even Sunday. Dry forecast, but more of that mix of clouds and sunshine. Here's the broader view, because really this is somewhat fascinating, but also very unfortunate. You can see the areas that will continue to see thunderstorms here in the next couple of days. This is Friday morning. Another batch developing out west. Another batch by Friday evening. It is the same, rinse and repeat. Notice more in western Texas late Friday night into Saturday. It's just the same areas going to be dealing with severe weather and heavy rainfall all the way, again, through the weekend. Now the warmth from yesterday is down south. So we're in the 40s right now in Milwaukee, places like St. Louis in the 50s, but out ahead of some of those warm fronts, still dealing with 70s and 80s. We did in Milwaukee make it into the 60s late yesterday evening thanks to that warm front pushing in very late. But now we're going to be limited to 40s for high temperatures today. Maybe some low 50s towards the south, especially if we end up seeing a little bit of sunshine, but up towards the north, more so looking at temperatures in the 40s. Let's take a quick look around the state. Thanks to our quiet weather today, we'll still see cloud cover, but temperatures in the Milwaukee area likely middle and upper 40s. Up to Green Bay, maybe a bit more sunshine, but more of that partly sunny sky and similar temperatures, middle and upper 40s. Over to Wausau, a touch cooler, but a very similar forecast with peaks of sunshine here or there, with the wind getting much lighter, especially after sunset. Rhinelander is going to be the cooler spot, of course, up towards the north. High temperatures likely upper 30s to low 40s. Eau Claire, temperatures low to mid 40s with mostly cloudy skies. La Crosse, very similar, although warmer, with it being a little bit more towards the south. Actually, one of the spots that will more than likely see low 50s if anyone across the state sees those. And then our last stop out in Madison, temperatures once again middle and upper 40s. Some peaks of sunshine, but more clouds than sun as the day goes on. That's your look across the region, of course, across the globe, or across the nation, I should say. Let's take a live look outside right now. This is Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Still some cloud cover, but much calmer than yesterday. We'll have plenty more coming up after the break. Welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Wisconsin Weather Experts. Well, we talked a lot in the last break, about severe weather yesterday. Right now, we are going to switch gears and talk about a different type of severe weather, because we just heard yesterday that a couple of hurricane names from this past hurricane season are going to be retired.
I know. Well, I can barely talk. I'm excited about some of the names that are being retired, but hurricane season is a different beast in itself, because you have so many different things that you can get out of a hurricane. That's tornado spin-ups, water spouts, storm surge, strong wind. Like, it's so many different things as you see here. And it's almost like a very hot tornado, if you ask me, whenever you're in one. I mean, we've both actually seen them. Right. So, yeah. But hurricanes are also my favorite to evaluate, because there's so many different things you can look at. But this season, I mean, some of the names that are retired are...
we've got 3 names that are going to be retired from 2024s. And so they are retired when they're very strong. Unfortunately, we have seen it before. So we have a list of names for now what will be 2030, year 2030. Remember, all of these lists, they get used again every so often. But so this is 2024's list, so last year's list, but the red names are the ones that are replacing the old names. So Brianna is taking the spot of Beryl, which you can remember, again, was very devastating. Holly, which I know you were pumped to see your name on there. Holly is going to be taking the spot of Helene. We all know the devastation Helene caused across parts of the Southeast, as well as the Carolinas, unfortunately. And then Miguel is going to be taking the place of Milton. So the retired 2024 names, they join the names of historic storms that were retired in the past, like Harvey and Ian, Michael, as well as Sandy. It just means that it was a very impactful storm, and the names will not be used again. Kind of a respect thing as well. But about 100 names of tropical storms and hurricanes have been retired for future use in the Atlantic. So now 3 new names added to that list.
Yeah, and those names are like names where I know those people, because a lot of the hurricane names too, I don't always know someone with that name, you know, but it's good. And I like that they actually retire the names, because it's like you don't want a repeat of the same storm.
Right.
So I do appreciate them retiring some of those very devastating storms.
Exactly. So good information there. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. Afterwards, we're going to talk a little bit more about, of course, just the severe weather that areas down towards the south of us dealt with yesterday. Here's a live look outside. We'll be right back.
All right, welcome back everyone to Wisconsin Weather Experts here. We have a little bit more to talk about as far as the damage goes. From yesterday, more than 20 tornadoes have been reported to the National Weather Service after deadly storms broke out across the Midwest and the South overnight. That is a lot of storms. Dozens of people have been injured, and at least 4 people have died from these storms in Tennessee.
And that's where we find Fox's Kaylee Schuyler and Selmer. Kaylee, what's the scene like at this hour?
Hey, Holly and Stephanie. So the National Weather Service says that 2 tornadoes hit this area just before 1 a.m. So a lot of this devastation hit in the dark. So when people woke up this morning, it really was a little overwhelming. What you're seeing behind me is a thrift store, and crews have been quick to start cleaning this up, because a lot of this rubble when I first arrived this morning was spread out across this parking lot. Now you can see they've started to pile it up a little bit, but in that rubble is a lot of clothing and merchandise from this thrift store. If we pan over a little bit, I mean, you can see that the glass has been busted out. The roof has been ripped up just a little bit. But unfortunately, this is just a glimpse of the devastation. If we pan across the street, I know it's a little far away, so it might be tough to see, but there's a gas station and a laundromat that really the shell of the building is just standing. And a lot of the people who are out here are actually volunteers who are helping to clean up, because this devastation is pretty remote. It's just 2 blocks of devastation. And my whole drive in, I just saw a little bit of flooding, but everything else looked like a normal day. And so here, people from the surrounding areas are coming in. They say they wanted to help out. So you're seeing a little bit of the southern hospitality in this area. But one woman I spoke to who lives about 2 blocks from here said when the storm was about to hit, it sounded like a train was coming.
And I mean, we were just clinging to the support beams, and I was holding my dog, and it was ears popping, you know. I never had anything like that happen. So it's I was happy that we actually took it seriously, because we almost didn't. I know that we're going to be okay, but I don't know what the next step is right now.
Yeah, so back here behind me, I'm sure you can see those trees that are toppled over, and actually part of the roof from the thrift store is tangled up in those trees. And just back behind here is actually a whole community of homes that have been totally leveled. But crews are trying to pick up as quickly as possible, because more severe weather is expected for the next few days. It's expected to start raining here within the next few hours, so it's really a rush to pick up as much as everyone can. In Selmer, Tennessee, Kaylee Schuyler, Fox 6 News.
And Kaylee, really quickly, if I can, speaking of that additional severe weather threat, are there shelters that are open for people who have maybe lost their homes or the buildings that they normally shelter in?
Yes, there are plenty of shelters that are open right now. There's actually one that's just down the street. A local church has opened up its doors for crews who are out here trying to volunteer, people who are looking for somewhere to stay, get water. We've seen a lot of water, people handing out water around here for anyone who needs it, because it's eerily hot now and sunny, which is just a bizarre feeling standing amongst all of this. So thankfully people do have a place to go.
All right, Kaylee, thank you so much. We wish everyone, as well as you, well in the coming days. Absolute devastation. It's so hard to see that actually in live, footage. So something to just keep in mind in the next couple of days. Our hearts, again, go out to everybody who are being impacted by that severe weather both yesterday and in the days to come. But here locally, we can just be thankful that we've got a break today and just some light rain in the forecast tomorrow night.
I know, an emphasis on the light rain. Not right now, but tomorrow. But here's a look outside by the airport.